Oh, gnarly, dude. Looks like you just went overboard.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Overboard. I'm your host, Jenny.
And I'm Anthony.
And today we're going to be doing a podcast on astrology and birth charts. But me and Anthony aren't very versed on this topic, so we decided we were going to have somebody join us today to help explain what it all is about and give us a better how do I want to say this? A better
understanding.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. A better understanding of what astrology is. So today we have Kiarra Rich joining us to help explain it all. Say hi.
Hello.
So Kiarra, first I just want to know, where did you start? When did you start learning about astrology and why?
Yeah. So I would say when. I'm going to be completely frank with you guys. So honestly, real talk, I would say always kind of been into it. I am the youngest of 12 and a lot, half of my siblings, they are all Virgos. And I remember asking my mom, because all their birthdays are literally it's the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and then the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. So it's they all come up by each other, but they're a year apart. And I remember asking my mom, I'm like, don't you think it's crazy that all these people are literally the same person and there's make up half of our family? And she's like, Kiarra, that's just the time that me and your dad would hook up in the year. I don't, that's just what it is. So I'm just okay. So then real talk, it was the day we graduated high school. It was myself and a friend, we'll say unnamed, but we tripped on psychedelics for the first time ever. So it was so cool. We were at a bonfire, and it was just awesome. But basically, I remember I remember walking in the friend's house that we were at, and there was a book about just astrology, it was a birthday book basically. And I remember the cover was it was super blue, super vibrant, and I remember looking at it, and I opened it up, and I'm just damn, this stuff is crazy. So then they were I heard my name. They were Kiarra, don't stay in the house too long. So I'm okay. So then leave the house, and then that was it. Well, then from there, a couple months later, myself and two other friends, we went to a bookstore in Ann Arbor called Crazy Wisdom Bookstore. Super cool, love it. There's 3 levels to it for those who haven't been there. But from there, they have a whole astrology section. It's about tarot, astrology, numerology, basically just everything that has to kind of do with the weird ins and outs of life. Right. So I just we were there for a couple hours, and I just sat at this astrology wall, and I'm just damn, that book that I picked up a couple months ago, it was so cool. It definitely it triggered something. It triggered just such almost an investigation. So then I sat at the astrology wall, really dug through these books, and then I found a book that just it was just ding. It's called Astrology for the Soul by Jane Spiller. Literally opened it up. And right when I opened up to my sign, which is I'm a Leo. And I opened it up, and it talks about it goes into your past life, which this is why it's one of my favorite books, is because it talks so much about your past life and how in this life, in your present life, how who you were in your past life based off your sign. It plays a big role. And literally the first 3 sentences, it goes, Leo children, a lot of times they look at themselves as their own security net, their own, well, there was a different word, but we'll say their own hype man, and their own savior. And then it went into the why behind that, and the why behind that is because it was Leo children tend to either have parents who either one of them has substance abuse problems or is just absent from the family, and there's usually only one parent that they can really rely on and trust. And then it talks about how that parent throughout their own journey can disappoint the Leo child, but the love is just so deeply rooted that that one person is their home. And then literally the next line, it talks about how typically Leo children tend to lose either one parent or both parents to either an overdose, a health issue, or like abandonment. And I remember like reading this and I like looked behind my shoulder and I was like, whoa. Like it literally kind of felt like someone just like read like the inside of like my mind or like knew my story. So then from there, bought the book. I literally like that book, I probably read it like once every couple of months. Like I very much use it as like a self-help tool. The way that the chapters break it down, it gives you a healing affirmation for your sign, and then it goes into things that you like, attributes and characteristics that you already have that are like great, they're, you know, like you're popping, and then it talks about attributes to leave behind. And the leave behind attributes, it was literally like my mom was sitting me down telling me like, you know, if you don't stop holding grudges, like you're never gonna have any friends. I'm like, okay, well, like whatever, like I like this. But yeah, I would say like from there, like that book like really led me on like my self-exploration of astrology, and just the tools are there. The tools are all around us. It's up to us to see what we can do with them and dive deeper. And it honestly, like, it helps you just, like, it helps you figure out your ego. Like, it really, like, your mom, your friend, like, anyone telling you, like, hey, these are the attributes, like, you need to leave behind because, like, you're a bitch. If they were to tell you that, it's like, oh, okay, like, screw you. But, like, when a book that literally has nothing personal to do with you hits home on so many of kind of, we'll say, the problem areas of your life, you're like, damn, I gotta listen to somebody. Like, yeah,
when the book calls you a bitch, then that's when you listen.
That is because you're like, this is so objective. Like, you don't know me, I don't know you. Like, I just picked this up on a bookshelf like on a rainy Tuesday, and it literally, like, it just changed my life. Like, real talk. Like, it really changed everything for me.
That's, like, a lot deeper, like, what you were talking about than I thought astrology went. Because I've, like, looked up my, like, horoscope before, and, like, what you just described is, like, so much deeper than anything I've ever heard about astrology. Like, ever. Yeah. So, it's really interesting. So, I want to know, like, what was your first, or, like, hearing my astrology sign, it's a Taurus.
Yeah.
What's your first, like, thought? Or, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so what it means to me, and it's different to everyone. Like, everyone can have their own ideas. And a lot of people, unfortunately, and I'm to blame for it too, but, like, people will base, like, oh, you're a Taurus? Well, my ex is a Taurus, and they fucking ruined my life, so, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, right. That's what you hear, and that's not even,
They do it to Geminis, like, all the time.
Oh, yes. Geminis, and that's the thing. Geminis are, like, one of my favorite signs. Like, I love Geminis.
Anthony is a Gemini, just for those of you who are listening.
Yeah. So, like, with the Taurus, it's one of those things, like, super creative, like, super hands-on, like, very much, like your guys' pairing, like, Gemini and Taurus, the way that I think of it is, like, Bob the Builder, can we fix it? Like, you guys have, like, okay, like, these ideas, like, Taurus, it's like, you're like, okay, well, let's do this. Like, here's the grand scheme. This is what I want to happen. This is the vision. How are we going to get there? And Anthony, being a Gemini, he's like, okay, well, if we break this down in a logical pattern, it's like, in order to get to step 10, we have to, like, cross our T's and dot our I's at step 1, 2, and 3. If we don't do that, step 10 is not going to be anything that you want it to be. Like, it's going to be messy. And that's where I think, like, your guys' pairing is super special and it's super cool. Just because, you know, like, you guys are almost like, you guys are business partners, really. Like, you guys are friends, but you guys do these different one-off things together. And I'm sure, like I said, like, I would put money on the fact that, like, when you guys are, like, planning, like, what you want to do, there probably is a lot of, like, maybe heated creative discussions. Like, they're not offensive, but it's like, bro, like, if we don't set it up like this, like, it's not going to be what we want it to be. But for, like, you, Jenny, like, you have, like, it's like a magical vision. It's like, okay, like, this is going to be dope. This is the amount of energy we have to put in it. Like, it's super, like, you're fired up about it. And that's where Anthony's like, I love this idea, but let's take a step back. Like, let's see what it all, like, kind of entails. You know, what's the lift on this? Like, what are the logistics behind it? And what's cool, too, about Taurus and Gemini is that on the astrology wheel, basically the signs that neighbor each other, what they do is that usually the one that's after each other, like, so how it goes Taurus, Gemini. So they say, when I say they, the ether, they say that the sign after you holds characteristics that, like, you need just kind of like to work on. Like, if you were to implement them in your life, like, you would be super well-rounded. So, like, for you, there are aspects that, like, Anthony holds, or characteristics that it's just like, that's why you guys make a great pair, because it's very like yin and yang, where it's like, oh, if I just did a little bit, if I just had like a little bit dash of Anthony like in this, then it's like, okay, the whole idea would come to like full fruition. Where it's like, for Anthony, like, the sign after you is Cancer, and where there are aspects of a Cancer that you could probably implement into your life, being a Gemini, it's like, you know what, I'm probably not that like coherent to other people's feelings. Like, I probably just need to take a step back a little bit. Where like Cancer, that's what they're about. Like, they're usually most of the times like big empaths. They know what you're thinking, they know what you're feeling before like you already express it, and they're like a super relationship sign. Where for Anthony being a Gemini, like, you probably, and I say probably with this just because I'm not going to be like, you're this way, because that's not true. But I would say, you know, like with relationships, it's probably like you come at it with a more logical thing. It's like, okay, like I'm really sorry, like, you're upset, I feel you, I love you, but like, what are the next steps? How are you going to get through this? Like,
totally. And that's like exactly how I am too. Like, I love listening to my friends like talk about their issues, and like they can always come to me, but I do hit that wall where I'm like, I have to catch myself before I start throwing out advice, or say, you know, like, where can we go from here, and how can I help make it better, or how can you make it better? And I know that a lot of the time that's not what people are looking for. So it's like I had to learn over the last couple of years, especially, like, just to slow down when people are telling me things, because I still do that all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, with Jenny and like you friends, like, I would put money on the fact that like when your friends come to you, you're like, damn, man, like, I'm just sorry, you know, like, I just like, I'm so like, it's almost like you put yourself in their situation, like, with them, and it's not even a place of like over self-involvement or like trying to like make it about you, but you literally, you're like, you're standing in a fire, like, I'm gonna stand in that fire with you so I can really assess like how you're feeling, and then that way the advice, or, you know, whatever I can give you is very much from a place of like pure understanding from your perspective.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly me. Like, I definitely try to like make sure I'm like feeling, like, trying to understand what they're feeling, I guess. Like, 100%. That's definitely.
Yeah, Jenny's very, very like empath status. Like, you feel really, really deeply, whereas I will make fun of you for feeling that.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's all about the balance. Like, for real though, like, I have my two older sisters that are like oldest next to me in line. They are Taurus and Gemini, but they're reversed. The Taurus is older and the Gemini is a year. It's literally like 9 months and 2 weeks younger. Watching them like work on projects together, I crack up, because it's like they'll literally be arguing like da da da. Like, I watched them once reshingle a roof. The funniest shit of my life. Like, they're like going at it, and then they'd like argue. They were arguing about like how to like lay down like the shingle, and then they're like going at it, but as they're going at it, they're literally like doing what needs to be done like at the same time. And then literally they like, Haley's holding it, like Jocelyn's like nailing it down, and then once it got in, they literally just stopped, and then they gave each other like a hug, because they were just so happy to get the end result that they both wanted. And I'm like, dude, like, y'all are funny. Like, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I love it. Like, when I read your guys' pairing, it really, I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, I feel like we're definitely like, I think, I mean, I don't really know much about astrology, but I feel like like what you said about how like our signs are close to each other is why we get along so well. Because like I've had a lot of friends tell me that like they're not as close with their siblings and like their signs are like super different.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes a lot of sense that like since we're closer together,
Yeah, you guys
that we,
are you guys are neighbors on the wheel.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's super funny that you said like, you know, your siblings that they fight like that, because when I come to Texas and me and Jenny are trying to record, like get ready to record our podcast, we're literally yelling at each other the whole time, just trying to set it up. Like, why don't you set this up? Why don't you set this up and stuff? And then we like bring it back and then record the podcast and we're like, okay, cool, that was good.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, you did awesome. Like, I fucking love you. Like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, that's why I literally, like, Bob the Builder comes with all these ideas, like, we're gonna do this, and then you have, can we fix it? And that's like, okay, well, you don't have any of the tools to do this. Like, we need to back up. We need to go to the store. Like, that's literally, like, that's what I reference my two sisters, because I'm just like, you guys fucking crack me up. Like,
Yeah. And what did you say your sign was?
so I'm a Leo. So
A Leo.
I have,
but our mom's a Leo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is she a July Leo or an August Leo?
She is
August.
a August Leo, but
That's
she's
what
like August
August
1st, so she's
1st.
like right on the
Yeah, my birthday is August 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
she's-
what does that entail then? Like what
So-
would
So, like, with her, like, I would say, because, like, for her and I, like, our birthdays are pretty close. So,
Yeah.
again, I'm speaking off of, you know, what I know about myself, because I've never met your mom.
Yeah.
But, like, she's probably pretty fiery. She's probably not afraid to really, like, say what she wants to say or pop off, you know, at any time. People would say that she's, like, the sweetest person ever, but the people who really know her are like, bitch, you're nice, but you can also be mean. Like, we know the real you. Like, you know, but, like, her outside world, like, you know, like, life of the party, like, super fun, but, like, chill. There's not, like, a try-hard aspect. Like, she's just, like, I am who I am, take it or leave it. If you don't like it, that's cool. Like, if it's someone she cares about and they don't like it, well, then it's like, damn, can we fix this? But then if not, it's like, we got to keep it moving. Like, we got to just, like, keep it going, you know?
That's
That sounds
so spot
exactly
on.
like her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is like dead on.
Isn't it, like, legit, though? Like, I recommend, like, astrology is my favorite tool. Like, if you are ever, like, talking to someone or, like, even just a new friend, like, it's like, what's your birthday? You know, just because I feel like you can just figure out so many, like, different little characteristics. Obviously, you can't map out a whole person because, you know, their experiences, their childhood, their parents, like, their gene pool, like, all of that, like, the science part of how someone is a somebody, like, that is real. Like, it's not just like, I was born here, so this is that. It's like, that's so real, but I, like, love, like, whenever my friends are like, yeah, like, I'm talking to, like, a new dude, I'm like, when's his birthday? Like, Facebook, like, let's find out, you know, because you can just...
Do some stalking real quick.
Yeah, because you can figure out stuff, and it's just, it's fun. It's like a social experiment.
So I like, you know, when you hear people say, like, just how you said, like, whenever somebody's dating somebody new, you, like, look up their astrology sign.
Yeah.
Like, people, when they become friends with people, they'll also ask that, and, like, they'll be like, oh, we can't be or, like, we're not compatible.
Yeah.
Like, what are your feelings on that? Like,
my feelings are like, you can't do that. Like, it's not like I have my reservations about, like, certain signs, and it's based off of, like, personal experience. Like, legit, like, I would never date a Virgo. Why? Because I have three out of my 4 brothers are Virgo men, and I'm like, y'all motherfuckers are crazy. Like, I just, like, I couldn't hang. Like, but as a friend, like, it's like your own personal perspective, but at the end of the day, like, we're all people, and you really need to get to know someone. And, like, you don't have to give everyone you meet a chance, but, like, if something intrigues something in you to give this person a chance, like, hell yeah, give them a chance. I think the pro of, like, knowing someone's sign when you first meet them is because, one, like, it kind of creates a platform for you to kind of, like, have those more intimate conversations with someone that, like, you kind of just met, you know. Like, I know for myself, like, I have friends that live in Ipsy, and literally, like, going into a house party, everyone's like, oh, damn, like, I'm an Aries. Like, you hear it all over the house, and it's, like, it's so fun because it's, like, everyone gets so hype about it. But what's cool is that, like, you'll hear people, and it's kind of like the same with like forests, you know, like you hear people talk about, you know, who they are, what they've been through, and then you kind of see people break off into those like mini clusters, and they're just really like, they're letting someone know about who they are and the experiences that they've been through. And all of that started just because someone's like, yo, my birthday's August 7th. Like, bro, mine's August 8th. Like, what the hell? Like, it's like that. It gets you excited and it gets you geeked up. And that is like, that's the best way to like start like a budding friendship or a relationship on, you know?
Right. That's so funny that you mentioned Forrest. That means you've been.
Oh yeah,
Forrest, right?
Yes. This 2020 was gonna be my 6th year going.
Oh shit!
Yeah, same.
Wow,
It was,
Yeah.
that's
heartbreaking.
crazy. I've
Yeah.
only been once, but it was
It's-
really fun.
It's so good. It just feels so good. It tastes so good. Like, it's so
It
good.
tastes so good. Yeah.
Dude,
Everything
like,
about
you're
it
just
is
like,
just so good.
It like feels so good to look at this. Like, that's like, it's just good.
So I always hear a lot about, you know, people ask me, you know, like what my sign is, right? But then they start asking me like what my moon sign is and what my rising sign is. And
Yeah.
I like, I don't know. Like I've done it before and I think like, I just don't know what does a moon sign mean? What does a sun sign mean? What do all those different things mean about a person's personality? Because it doesn't necessarily, like you might be like, I might be a Gemini, right? But I think I'm like a Sagittarius rising maybe. And so I guess what do those mean?
Yeah, so your sun sign is going to be very much kind of like the breakdown of like, kind of like your main personality. What I like to say is kind of like those childlike qualities, like the things that get you excited and like when you're just like clowning with your friends, like how you feel like within those environments, and kind of like, you know, at the same time, it's like those are the pros, but also like, you know, like when you're in an environment and something kind of just seems weird to you, and it's like that little kid in you is like, okay, like I gotta get out of here, like people are acting weird.
Yeah.
Like those are usually like, those are the instincts from like your sun sign coming through. Like it's very much like your conscious being, you're like, it's very much like, it's like you in the Matrix. It's like you playing the game.
Yeah.
You're in it. Like this is you. This is who you are.
It
if that
is
makes
the
sense.
pilot, essentially. Like it's the
Yes.
pilot. Got you.
Yep, 100%. And then like your moon sign, that is very much like your emotional being sign. And part of that is like, yes, your moon sign, it's more the emotional, but depending on what sign your moon lands in, like it can be a very logical part. Like I have a Gemini moon. So for me, like, and I struggle with this. Like it's something that I'm always going to have to learn, is that when something happens to me that, it's like my emotions rise to a certain point, but then it's like pilot auto response kicks in and it's like pure logical. I'm like, okay, what needs to happen next? Like, what are next steps? I feel this way, but if I let this feeling take over, it's going to hinder my like active thinking of like problem solving. So like it almost like my emotional side is coming from we'll say like a logical perspective. So yeah, it's kind of just like, it represents like how you interpret emotions, how you interpret kind of like that overwhelming, like bad information. Just like if someone were to break up with you, like how would you handle that breakup? Like it's very much the emotions that are deeply rooted in us, but also the emotions that like you show when you're hurt or when you're upset or when you're feeling some type of way. And then your rising sign. So your rising sign is very much like kind of like the face that you show each other. You know, it's very much similar with your sun sign as far as that personality. But with your rising sign, it's almost like the mask that you put on like at work. The mask that you put on when kind of meeting someone new for the first time. And it's also your rising sign. This is one of my favorite like aspects of it. Your rising sign is very much how other people perceive you. So it's like that first thought when you meet someone, like how they came across, or like, you know, when I met Anthony for the first time, like what did I think about him? Like what was the vibe that I was picking up? That's like your rising sign, which is very interesting, you know, because it's like, it's very much has to do with you, but at the same time, it's the face that the rest of the world sees almost.
Right. Huh.
Yeah. Any questions about, like, they call them the big three is what we just, like, went over.
Yeah, because I know there's, like, more, right? Like, there's Mercury, and then is ascending and descending different than all those, too?
Yeah, so your ascending is, so the sign that your ascending falls into, that is almost like has to do with, or excuse me, your ascending and your rising, those are the same thing. Okay. It's the same planet. Your descending, that is like your shadow side. So kind of like the dark parts of you that, like, it's almost the things that, like, you need to work on, and if you don't confront, like, they'll soon, like, they show up in every aspect of your life. Is like, that's like what your descending is. From a scientific point, or like the planet, your ascending or rising sign, that is when the sun was rising over the eastern hemisphere, and then your descending is when the sun was going, like, opposite, western, going down. So basically everything was coming dark. So that's part of the reason why they call it your shadow side. It's because all those characteristics happened when the sun was on the other side of the earth when you were born.
Oh, that's crazy. I'm like soaking this all in, like processing it in my head.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so I don't know how to word this so that
just say it. Just say it. We'll figure it out.
What do the planets have to do, like, what do the planets that are placed before each one of those things have to do with, like, anything?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so, like, where do the planets play into your chart?
Yeah.
So the planets, they represent different things within themselves. So, like, Saturn represents something different than Pluto does. You know, like, Pluto represents, like, a lot of times, like, that's your luck. And the way that the planets, like Saturn, Pluto, Mars, the way that they transit around, like, the universe, that timeline also comes into your chart. So, like, Pluto only goes around, it's like at 18 years is how long it takes to orbit. So when you have a sign, like, in Pluto, it's going, like, let's say, like, a horoscope is, like, you know, because, like, Sagittarius is in Pluto and it's going to be orbiting for 18 years. Because Sagittarius is very much like a lucky sign and the gravitational pull, like, of Pluto, that means, like, it doesn't mean you're going to get super lucky or, like, you're just going to win the lotto or anything like that, but it's almost like things are more in your favor. Do with it what you will for that transit period. So the signs, like, how they all represent different things. When the sign is in a planet, they represent different things. The planet itself will represent characteristics, but then how your sign falls into that based on where you were born, it also, like, it's almost how you act on those characteristics that the planet, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the planet, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, showcases or, like, exemplifies. Like, so let's say, well, yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, cool. Sorry, that, like, took me a second to, like, get there.
No, it's okay. So you said so I just kind of want to recap real quick. So you said the big three, which, like, sun signs,
your moon sign, and your rising.
And rising. Those are kind of like the three biggest that affect kind of like your personality, essentially, for the most part.
So we have those, and then, like, your Mars and then your Venus. Those represent a lot. Your Mars is very much like your communication, how you talk to people, how you talk to strangers, how you download information when someone's talking to you. So that's why it's a big thing. You know, as humans, we are social beings. And being able to, it's like being able to comprehend what someone's saying. Like, it's such a step further than just listening to what someone's saying. So that's why that's, like, a big one. And then your Venus, like, that's like your love language. So, like, you know, like, if you like quality time, you like physical touch, a lot of that has to go into what sign, like, your Venus falls in. So, like, for an example, they say, like if your Venus, like, if Scorpio falls in Venus on your chart, like, they say, like, usually, like, you have, like, you have a high sex drive. Like, that's something that, like, sex is how you confirm, like, your love for someone. Like, it's not, like, that's how, like, you are literally, like, making love. Like, that's what you do.
Right.
So those are also two that, like, play into a lot. Kind of just because it's a part of, like, the human experience.
That's crazy.
I know. It's wild. Like, and, like, too, like, Neptune. So, like, Neptune, you know, like, Neptune, a lot of it, like, revolves around kind of like the finances in your life too. So they say, like, people that have, like, a Neptune in, like, Capricorn or like Cancer, like, those people, they say, like, they're able to, like, save money better just because they are more responsible with their finances. So there's just different things that, like, depending on, like, where the sign falls in your planet, it represents different characteristics. And it's like, if you research it, if you're into it, it's almost like you can always find something that kind of relates to you, you know, and you can either choose to kind of, like, believe it and kind of, like, work off of that, or, you know, you can say bullshit and then you kind of miss out on, like, an internal, like, fortune cookie that's kind of, like, waiting for you to explore.
So you learned all of this just by, like,
just like books, going on the internet, like, when you're, like, if you're super stoned, just, like, I, like, like, legit, like, their Instagram now is kind of oversaturated along with Twitter, just because now it's, like, the hot thing. So I have, like, a couple, like, different things that I can recommend. So, like, The Pattern, that's one of my favorite apps. You can get it on your phone. Literally, it's so fucking cool. You put in your birthday, and it doesn't even just talk about, like, oh, if you're, like, a Capri Sun, like, money is gonna fall into your lap on Tuesday. Like, it's not like that. You, like, you put in your birthday, and it, like, breaks down just, like, the innermost, like, characteristics of who you are, and then it gives you, like, it talks about it, like, day to day, and it will talk about, like, phases of your life, and it's so cool. I recommend it. It's kind of weird to navigate at first, but once you get it, it's so cool. It talks about, like, your timing and then the world's timing, but what's also really cool is that you can go back in time. So you can look up previous dates of your life. A little story for you guys, when I first downloaded the app, I was like, oh my God, like, this is so crazy. So then started going through it. I went back to a time. And so when we were, I don't know what year this was, but Anthony, when you and I were in 7th grade, like, whatever year, or 6th grade, whatever year that was, I don't even know.
2000.
It was 12 years ago. So 2011, right?
2011, probably. Yeah, that sounds right.
So that year, it was like me and my mom, we were Christmas shopping, and she at the Genesee Valley Mall, and she ended up getting mugged. Like, it was like this huge thing, crazy ordeal. It was wild times. So move past that. It's been like a decade. So in the app, The Pattern, obviously that is a date, like, that time period resonates with me so deeply because it changed my life. So I go back and I read, it tells me, like, all about, like, based off of, like, my planets, like, what's happening in my chart. It's so crazy because, so for myself, I have Scorpio is in my 5th house. So what, again, along with the planets and your signs, your houses represent different things. Scorpio is very much about, like, it's about, like, birth, death, your rebirth, kind of, like, think of almost like a phoenix, like, rising from the ashes. A lot of it is very kind of like, you know, like, your sex drive, kind of like those more, like, inner kind of, like, I don't want to say demonic because that's not the right word,
like,
but kind of
primal instincts, maybe?
Yeah, like those kind of, like, darker, kind of like the weird stuff about you that until someone really gets to know you, like, they don't really know. Yeah. So for me, that is in my 5th house. Your 5th house represents very much, like, again, kind of like that childlike state, that sense of security, like, your sense of love from others, just very much like when you look at a cute little kid and you're like, oh my God, you literally have the whole world ahead of you. That's kind of like what your 5th house represents.
Gotcha.
From this app, it talks about how it's like right now, like, you're being pulled into, like, the underworld, like, the veil is being ripped off of you by events in your life. Like, you are seeing the world for what it really is, for who people are. This is a huge opportunity in your life for you to, like, understand the reality of the world that you live in. again, this was 10 years later. But at that time, when I was 11 and just went through this, literally, like, that's how it was like the reality of like figuring out that like people are shitty and like bad things happen. That's that's what happened. And it's just like, it was so cool. And from then there, I've been hooked. Another favorite book of mine, it's called Sextrology by Starsky and I think it's Starsky and Cox, like Cox. This one's really cool because it breaks down like the signs, but almost like how you said, like those primal instincts. Like it's very much like talks about like the animalistic characteristics that we as people have, but like some of us, we try to shut them down. Other of us like embrace them to the fully. Some of us overindulge in those and they like ruin our lives. You know, some of us are repressed. So just different books, different app, just like creeping on the web, finding different people.
And we'll put the descriptions of the books and the names in the
description.
In the description for the video.
I recommend them to the fullest.
So you were saying though, with specifically that one incident where your mom got mugged, right? So you used that app and you went back to that date. Is that what you said?
Yep. You can literally.
Wow.
You can just plug in a date. Yeah. And it like gave me this whole synopsis about just kind of like based off of my birthday, because on the back end portion of the app, it like runs your chart. And it gave me this whole synopsis of like what was going on. And I'm like, damn, if 11-year-old me could have had my hands on this and could have understood like more. But obviously I'm not the same as I was when I was 11. No. I wouldn't have understood it. No. But I'm just like, I'm like reading this. I'm like, damn, if someone just would have told me, like, why did it have to go down like that? You know, like, why did it have to happen like that? But, you know.
That's so funny.
But yeah.
What was that? That's called The Pattern, right? That app?
Yep, the pattern. And it has like a little wave on the icon. It's super cool.
Is there anything you want to plug, and where can the people find you if you're like trying to get a more bigger social media following, right?
Yeah. Like those books I recommend. They're actually, I got this info from my sister before we started. So for my 21st birthday, she actually got me like a professional chart reading. Fucking blew my mind. It was so cool. Mm-hmm. The girl's name is Heidi Rose Robbins, and her website's just HeidiRose.com. It's like $50. She gives you like this whole synopsis. She gives you a reading, and you can save it like on your computer. So you can have it forever, and it's super cool. I definitely like, if you're trying to like kick yourself off into the hobby, that would be a great place to start, because she's like a total professional. And she has a lot of like really insightful things to say. So that's something else I wanted to recommend. And as far as like getting a bigger social media, like I don't really care about social media. But if someone has any questions or like would like to talk about, you know, the things that make them tick, or try to understand like, hey, why do I do this? Or like, how can I, you know, almost like if they're interested in using it as a self-help tool, because that's very much what I use it for. Instagram, Facebook, my Facebook's Kiarra Rich, obviously, and then my Instagram name is KikaLeaks. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I love answering questions. I love talking about this shit. Yeah, if you're ever trying to creep on someone, let me know. That's my specialty. That's my favorite.
That's perfect. We'll leave all these links in the description so that you guys can follow her and you can look at all of these books and apps, which we highly recommend if you're into astrology or want to learn more about it. And like you said, you can always contact Kiarra. She's open to talking. And you can also follow us over on Instagram at Overboard X Podcast. That's Overboard, the letter X Podcast. And you can also message us. We will always have our phone number in the description, so you can send us a message on there, either texting or a voicemail, and we'll answer it on the podcast at some point. And so thanks for everybody for tuning in, and thank you, Kiarra, for coming on and being with us.
It was my pleasure. This was so much fun. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll see you next time, folks.
Bye.
We'll get to steadier waters eventually.